In truth, mankind isn't all that nice. And yeah, I've covered this topic before, but I've reread some stuff recently that made me think of how far this idea stretches. There are good people and bad people, and most of us who are in the moral gray. All of these morals come from our surroundings. The people and environment we're surrounded by are what shape us into the people we grow up to be. People are strong in their beliefs when they become old enough to comprehend morality, but as kids, we're subject to the world and the people who inhabit it. If we grow up surrounded by bad people, we inherit their bad values and vice versa. Humanity's worst is something I hope nobody has to go through, but some of us do live in that dark reality. With that said, let's take a look at a manga's interpretation of that dark reality. Takopi's original sin has us look at how life at home can affect your life outside it. We start with a happy alien and his journey to spread joy across the universe. He's from the Happy Planet, a place where happiness rules all. And though this is true, their view on happiness isn't very thorough, believing that smiling directly equates to joy and that all problems can be solved via conversation. A very naive viewpoint. We're then introduced to Shizuka, who upon seeing a hungry Takopi, decides to fork over some bread. In return, Takopi tries to hand over a pair of flap wings, a so-called happy tool that would allow Shizuka to fly, but she refuses. After all, what purpose would those wings even serve? She turns around to go buy a pencil board for school, and we start to see a glimpse of the life that Shizuka goes through. Takopi, being the way that he is, pays no mind, believing that her refusal meant that people could already fly. Shizuka comes back, but this time, she's hiding from a group of kids, flaunting their bullying of Shizuka. Takopi, being where he's from, doesn't get the hint, and interprets that as playing around, to which Shizuka sarcastically goes along with. Not long after, Takopi introduces Shizuka to a camera that has the ability to go back in time to where and when the picture was taken. Shizuka still has no interest in anything Takopi related, but Takopi tries to cheer her up, and does so for the next couple of days. Nothing seems to make her smile, but when she goes to feed her dog, Chappie, all of a sudden, she's seen laughing. Here, we start to see more of her life at home, one without a father, to start, but that doesn't really matter, as long as she has Chappie. Taking Chappie for a walk, Takopi follows along, and Shizuka opens up about her being stuck, not being able to go anywhere, neither to Takopi's happy planet, nor to where her dad is. Takopi is further inspired to make her smile using his happy tools, but before that, we see what the so-called happy mother tells Takopi during his time there at the happy planet, being to never break the rules when using the happy tools. Seeing Takopi's determination to make her happy, Shizuka smiles for once at Takopi this time. Her life is finally going to start looking up now. Is what you might have thought a singular panel ago. The next we see of Shizuka, we see her beaten up, Chappie's empty collar in hand. Takopi, believing that she got into a fight with her so-called friends, gives her a ribbon that when tied to two pinkies, the two people will instantly make up. It stretches infinitely and is very durable, representing the bond the two friends now have. Shizuka requests to borrow the ribbon. Problem is, giving any happy tool to anyone not from the happy planet is strictly forbidden, but Takopi wants to make Shizuka happy, and so lends it to her. Takopi later goes on to check up on Shizuka to see whether or not she's made up with her friends, but in the end, Shizuka ends her own life. Takopi struggles to figure out why this happened, but not willing to give up on cheering up Shizuka, he uses the camera to go back in time. Here, he declares that he's going to go to school with her. Now at school, though oblivious to Takopi, we see the bullying done to her by her classmates. Takopi sees this and helps her in any way he can, whether it be helping her out with the homework questions or eating her lunch for her. Marina, the leading member of this little bully group, gets pissed off and asks Shizuka to meet her outside. Shizuka obviously doesn't want to go, and seeing this, Takopi volunteers to go in her stead, as he can copy her appearance. He goes to talk to Marina, but ends up being hit instead. Takopi tries to get Marina to talk things out, but to no avail. We see Marina mutter that she wants her papa back, before readying to stab Takopi with a pencil, to which she gets scared and uses the camera to travel back in time. Takopi believes itself to be the cause for all this trouble, but is too scared to do anything further to try and help Shizuka. This leaves her to go meet Marina, and her being stabbed in the face, though she didn't get too hurt. Soon later, we meet our third important human character, Azuma, who checks up on Shizuka. Her replies to all of his comments are cold, leaving him feeling dissatisfied. We're told that Shizuka's mom and Marina's dad are good friends, and that when Marina's around, things are never good. Shizuka goes back to play with Chappie, and Marina, in the distance, is staring at the two, angry that her plan didn't work out. But before we can get any more thoughts in regarding Shizuka, we see what her situation at home is like. A mother, distraught over the fact that her husband is now gone from the house, and Marina, left trying to calm her down. Shizuka and Takopi go for another walk, where she shares that her lackluster attitude toward magic, and maybe by proxy God, came from a wish she made. She would constantly wish for her parents to not separate, a wish that eventually wouldn't end up coming true. Takopi remembers that this was the day that Shizuka came back to the spot beaten up and with an empty collar. Before that thought goes any further, Marina shows up and provokes Chappie by hitting Shizuka. Chappie gets aggressive, and Marina stages the scene as Chappie being a rabid animal. Takopi sees Shizuka's reaction to the scene and goes back in time. Though, no matter what he tries, Chappie always ends up being taken away from Shizuka. After lingering around Marina, we see that it's because Marina had been following them, planning to have Chappie bite her. Takopi promises that he'll cheer her up, but even after 101 resets, Chappie ends up being taken away from her. Because her father is the one who left Chappie to them, he's going back to him. Shizuka goes back to school, where the incident makes her out to be the reason for Marina's injury. Azuma is still trying to help out Shizuka, but he doesn't get through to her. Marina, not feeling satisfied, asks Shizuka to meet after school to talk about Chappie. Takopi is hopeful that maybe they'll make up. We get a quick glimpse of Marina's life at home, but it soon cuts back to the present. Marina makes it clear that Chappie isn't going to come back, yelling that it's dead, over and over. Her dog's gone, her dad's been gone, her mom's mostly gone. Would it really make a difference if she was gone too? She's a parasite after all. Her mom is keeping Marina's dad from being home. Things would just be fine if she hadn't been around. Marina beats Shizuka, projecting her family problems onto the kid. In the midst of it all, Takopi tries to save the day, and ends up hitting Marina in the head with his camera, killing her. Blood spatters on the camera, and now it doesn't seem to work. On the flip side, Shizuka seems ecstatic about all of this. Finally, Marina is dead. All of her problems are now gone, just like magic. And with that, they turn away from the sin they just committed. Azuma walks in on the scene and sees what's become of Marina. Though he takes it all seriously at first, the dude's in love with Shizuka, and so can't help but try to help her escape the consequences, and so together, they come up with a plan to preserve the corpse using a happy tool and have Takopi turn into Marina. Takopi is still set on helping Shizuka, and so doesn't have any objections. Takopi then goes to Marina's house, where we see Marina's father finally at home. Though he's home, he's arguing over how the mother spends the income, yelling about how she's spending his money on useless garbage. She rebuttals with the fact that he uses the money on prostitutes, but the argument only escalates from there. During the conflict, Takopi gets hit in the face with something the father threw out of rage. Takopi's naive look on relationships meant that he interprets this as a healthy family. We also see Shizuka planning to go to Tokyo, to her dad's place, to get back Chappie. In the meantime, we get a hint of what Azuma's going through in his life. His brother seems to be real privileged, but he goes through life as if he isn't. This gets Azuma angry because he gets to do whatever he wants as a result of being naturally gifted. Pancakes are what seem to be his interpretation of this privilege, because whenever he was a kid, his mom wouldn't give him pancakes when he failed to meet her expectations. We cut back to the present, where the three of them seem to be getting along well as friends, while the sin they committed rears its ugly head. Takopi is chilling at Marina's house, and in the midst of an argument between the parents, the father makes an offer to have Marina go stay at his place. Takopi is clueless enough to believe that Papa meant a location, the same one where Chappie's at, and enthusiastically accepts the offer. Later, after the father's left, we see what's left of the mother. She yells at Takopi for not taking her side. She's different now for some reason. What comes out of her mouth is probably a lot of pent-up anger over how Takopi responded to Marina's dad's offer, but she also grieves over the fact that she wasn't a good mother, and that the person standing in front of her isn't someone she can recognize. Marina's her daughter after all, and despite all they go through, that motherly bond is still there. Takopi takes a look at the memories the family had while they were still together, and breaks down. Takopi's actions have once again hurt someone dearly. The decision to talk about this to Shizuka is made, all while the body of the real Marina is discovered. The body is found, and the news starts to spread. We see Azuma start to panic, but Shizuka seems to be just fine. Rather, she straight up ignores everything related to the news regarding Marina. Azuma, still being blinded by his crush on Shizuka, goes along with it. Cut to later, where Azuma is planning the trip to Tokyo. His brother interrupts him, and Azuma again panics. This trip ended up taking priority over his studies, and when he gets a bad grade on a test, his mom surprisingly gives him pancakes, noting that he probably has a lot going on. Finally, his mom starts to understand his situation, but in the end, it was the opposite. She serves him the pancakes as there isn't any reason to keep them from him anymore. He isn't going to improve, and she's given up on him. Taking the treat away won't solve anything, so it doesn't really matter whether or not he gets them. In a moment of despair, who else but Shizuka to pick him back up? She's the light in his dark world, and so he proclaims that he'll do anything for her. She takes him up on this offer, asking whether or not he'll turn himself in for her. We see a flashback from Azuma's past. His brother, Junya, is slacking off. Azuma warns him that if he slacks off too much, he won't get good grades. Though this is true for most kids, he was some kind of genius it seems, as he didn't need to do any studying to get good grades. On the other hand, Azuma, someone who studies all the time, wasn't able to match his brother. This sense of inferiority is what drove him to be as studious as he is. At some point, Junya apparently went off the rails, dyeing his hair and getting a part-time job against his mom's will. This didn't stop him from being the genius that he is. Rather, the change made him more likable. Junya was living the life, and Azuma still wasn't able to compete. While in class, thinking about how Junya has it all, including his mom's double eyelids, he's reminded of said eyelids when he sees Shizuka. She reminds him of his mom. He sees Shizuka getting bullied and tries to help, but he can't even do that. He can't do anything. But now, he's the only one who can save her. Shizuka takes advantage of his love for her, and their plan to go to Tokyo is about to unfold. That is before Junya steps in. "You killed her, didn't you? You're a disgrace to this family. It's your fault," is the kind of response Azuma was expecting. But in reality, Junya sees that Azuma is going through something, and as any good brother would, he's there to comfort him. He's there for him. Azuma opens up about his struggles being inferior to his brother, and that Shizuka is the only one who's ever there for him. Azuma breaks down, and Junya is again there for him. After finally realizing that his brother is kind of a cool guy, he ends up bailing on the trip to Tokyo, and revealing his involvement in Marina's death. Shizuka, still without a care about anything, decides to head on over to Tokyo. Now in Tokyo, her problems still persist. After finding her dad, she now sees that he's moved on. He's a new man with a new family, and he doesn't remember who Shizuka is. Shizuka wants to see Chappie, but he isn't there. After leaving, she comes to the conclusion that they ate Chappie. She asks Takopi for help, but Takopi doesn't have an answer to her problems. Shizuka interprets this as him not saving her either, her eyes resembling Marina's now, projecting her problems onto others, and playing the victim when faced with resistance. Shizuka readies to kill Takopi, and in that moment, he remembers something. We see a past memory of Takopi, meeting Marina where he first met Shizuka. Up to now, the characters we've seen have all been in the 4th grade. This memory seems to take place around 6 years from then. Marina doesn't take too kindly to Takopi, but she takes him along for the ride. We see her go to school, and here, it seems that she's a bit of an outcast. She has a scar on her face, and has the reputation of someone who easily resorts to violence. She goes home, and her life doesn't seem too different compared to what we've seen thus far. But in this memory, we see a more violent mother. Glass is a trauma point for this Marina, as it was what caused the scar on her face. Later on, Marina encounters Azuma, and sooner than later, they start dating. Her mother is ecstatic about the news, as she knows of his ties to a successful clinic. Things progress in Marina's life, and she seems content, finally happy with where her life's going. Right when things were getting good, Shizuka joins the fray, and she catches Azuma's attention. Something to note is that rumors start to spread regarding Shizuka here, that she once tried to off herself, but the rope ended up breaking. We can only assume that this is when she ends up using Takopi's ribbon to off herself the first time, Only this time she didn't have the mega sturdy ribbon, and so the suicide attempt was a failure. Azuma ends up breaking up with Marina, and Marina's life crumbles once more. This is only furthered by her mother's positive attitude toward Marina, now that she believes that her daughter has a good future waiting for her. Marina breaks the news to her mother, and is threatened by a broken glass bottle. In retaliation, Marina kills her mother. Takopi walks in on the situation, oblivious as always, and comes to the conclusion that killing Shizuka would solve all of Marina's problems. As long as Takopi kills Shizuka in the 4th grade, everything will be solved. He flies off to go to the Happy Planet to get a happy tool to go back to when they were all in 4th grade, and in the meantime, Marina decides to end her life. Takopi, now at the Happy Planet, expresses his wishes to kill Shizuka to the Happy Mama. He tells her that he needs to go back in time. Happy Mama tries to erase Takopi's memories to try and revert him to the happy state Takopi was born in. She does this right as Takopi goes back in time, so it seems unclear whether or not it worked at first. Takopi remembers his goal, but there are gaps in his memory, with his memory almost completely being erased soon after. We cut back to the present, and we see Takopi remember what his original goal was. This, I assume, came back after Takopi was smacked in the head by Shizuka. He was knocked out, and when he comes to, he remembers all this. The memory reveals the fact that the memory of meeting Marina instead of Shizuka was the original timeline, and we get a clear picture of Takopi's original sin, being this whole kill Shizuka thing. Remembering his goal, he flies off to where Takopi first met Shizuka, and there, he has a dilemma. Yeah, Shizuka made Marina sad, but he's also seen Marina do some pretty cruel things to Shizuka too. Shizuka isn't a bad person. After all, it was her that gave Takopi bread on that fateful day. During this train of thought, Azuma shows up. The two sit, and Takopi reveals everything that's happened until now. Azuma doesn't get any of it, and that's the end of that. Azuma came by to let Takopi know that he's not going to be seeing them anymore. After revealing all that he's done, his life is crumbling apart. His mother is bedridden due to the shock, and his brother got fired and may not have a chance to get into a university, despite his grades. And Shizuka is still the way she is. Azuma had fun with the group, and he's here to say thanks. This kid, who only ever seemed to ruin everything for everyone around him, finally got to hang out with people who appreciated him. But he knows all that he is, and he can't stay hanging around them anymore, for their sake and his. With that, the two wave goodbye to each other for one last time, with Azuma's last words being that if Takopi ever goes back in time and meets a new Azuma, tell him to try fighting with his brother for once. After some more waiting in that same spot, Takopi encounters Shizuka once more. Shizuka is still hell-bent on finding Chappie, and when Takopi objects to her demands, she starts to have a breakdown. When her father didn't recognize his daughter, when she couldn't get on a ferry because she didn't have a parent with her, when that same parent stopped showing up to her house, when the neighbors complain about Chappie without anyone proper to deal with the issue, she asks Takopi, what should she have done then? I don't know. Takopi finally gets it. He can't do everything. He can't relate to Shizuka. He doesn't understand her feelings. Trying to help only furthered them more. I'm sorry I've left you all alone. And for the first time in the manga, the two have a heart-to-heart, crying their eyes out. The two seemingly have made up, but the tears won't stop flowing. All that is lost isn't coming back. Shizuka's life is just as horrible as it was when we started this. Takopi takes out the camera he used to go back in time, and though it's dysfunctional now, there may be a way to make it work. One final chance at making Shizuka happy. In the solar system, on the 3rd planet called Earth, to you, my precious person, so that you may have what you truly wished for. And with that, we arrive back to where it all started. To all of you in 2016. We see Shizuka start off her day like any other, and we also see Takopi's self-inserted dialogue. It's a beautiful sunny day. This is a perfect day for school, don't you think? School is where you go every day, isn't that right? I could never forget. After all, it was you who taught me that. There's also this girl, Marina-chan. She's chatting with you today, as usual. She does mean things, but the truth is... Oh, that's right. I should talk about you too, Azuma-kun. Yes, You were always alone. And so were you. I'm sorry. During a standard bully sesh, Marina catches a glimpse of the dumb doodle Shizuka drew in her notebook. It looks catastrophically stupid and totally useless. Scumball. It looks like a scumball. But also, it looks like it'd always get involved. Like it would always stick with you. Then it would keep talking to you. And it just wouldn't go home, no matter what. Even though it's stupid, it doesn't even do anything except talk. Because talking brings happiness. Oh right, that was the most important thing I had forgotten. My most important promise. I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm sorry I couldn't talk to you one last time. In the solar system, on the third planet called Earth, to all of you in 2016. There are so many things I can't do for you. Your families, who have already drifted apart, and the feelings that went with them. Your mamas who will no longer look at you, and your papas who are no longer only yours. I can't do anything for you, but even so, to you, and all of you who are no longer alone. May you all grow up just fine. I'm sure you will. Thank you, and bye-bye. We cut to Shizuka and Marina hanging out like friends, and with that, we have the full story of Takopi's original sin. This manga manages to capture the sinful nature of humanity's circumstances unlike anything I've ever seen. People's environment shapes them more than you can imagine. Most people aren't inherently bad. They're shaped to be. We see this in Marina from the start, and we see Shizuka spiral down that path as well, both stemming from the consequences of a neglectful family. On the other hand, we have Azuma. His environment was one of constant pressure, needing to do good on every test, needing to meet the expectations his brother set. This obsession blinded him from what really mattered. This was all in his head. His brother is there for him no matter what. They're family, and nothing is going to change that. With this, we start to see some good in the manga. Azuma recognizes that he isn't alone, and that he doesn't have to take on all his burdens by himself. We get a look at Azuma's salvation. All it took was his brother to step up and ask whether or not Azuma was doing alright. Something his mother wouldn't. When it comes to Shizuka and Marina, their salvation comes from their relationship with Takopi. Through thick and thin, that octopus alien tried to make them happy. And when he couldn't, he took it upon himself to give the two one last chance to make up and become friends. This sacrifice luckily didn't end up in vain, as we see the two being friends later on. Where your life seems like it couldn't get any worse, there's always a flip side. You're never alone, and may you all grow up just fine. I'm sure you will. Man, people are the worst, aren't they? But we haven't finished the video. That's because there are more aspects to the sin we humans commit. Let's move on to The Horizon, a story regarding the consequences of war and how one can find the will to bounce back from it. We start with a boy looking at his dead mother, laid out on the floor, brains and all. He was upset at this, of course, but no tears were shed. The only thing in his eyes are emptiness. Being surrounded by corpses, he was lost in thought. Seeing everything that his life had become, he had come to a conclusion. The value and meaning of life was just something fictitious that can be fabricated and destroyed by man. Life merely exists only to approach death. Amidst the obscurity of existence, we all gradually disappear. That was the truth and fact discovered by the boy. After coming to this conclusion, he decides to move forward. No goal in mind, no rationality in this action, with the only objective being to move forward. While sleeping, thoughts of the horrors he's seen play over and over, until one day, where after waking up, he meets a girl. The two sit in silence, a silence that is soon interrupted by a big boom. They run away, only to see more of what war looks like. The boy, in the midst of horrific thought, looks over to see the girl crying, and for some reason, he was compelled to run away with her. When they reach safety, the two walk forward. No use staying put. The only thing to do now is go forward. On their trek forward, we meet a deranged individual. The boy was terrified of the guy, and so decided to not do anything about his presence. The man, on the other hand, stuck with them. He was no more fit in the head than a child, and prove to them that he would be of hindrance. The two kids planned to run away from the man, but when night came, a big explosion wakes the man. Scared, he chases the two, seeking comfort in the presence of others. Now, trying to escape was going to be harder. The man is now scared of being alone, and so keeps himself awake all the time, as to not miss their escape. They find a river, restock on water, and eat some frogs. During the night, the man stays awake, and the boy sees that he's slowly getting tired. As much as he's someone who needs care for, something about him is off to the boy. One day, the man collapses, and they start to walk away. The girl, more compassionate than the boy, wants to stay with the man. They stay with the man for a little longer, but the boy, still, had his eyes on the man, worried that he'll do something to the girl. With this in mind, upon finding a field of corpses, he loots a knife, just in case he'll need it. After some talk with the girl on a late night, the boy comes to a thought. Would it be possible for the boy and the man to become friends? And if the girl wanted this, he would try. The boy and girl share a moment in the field of fireflies, but are interrupted by the man, who tries to do some not so nice things to the girl. The boy stabs the man, making sure he'll end up dead, and he takes the girl and they run. They're back at step 1, moving forward, though they seem to gotten to know each other a bit more. As they're talking, the girl gets shot with a tranquilizer, and the boy gets hit soon after. It looks like they've been caught by some traffickers. The vehicle heads toward a city, with fighting ensuing. In the end, the two are saved by a man in a suit. The man treats them to some good old hospitality, but he wants something in return. He shows them a room with a bunch of screens, and he tells the two to keep him informed of anyone visible on any of the screens. They see a truck moving by and report it. Before they know it, he's killed them all. It seems that this time, it's the girl who's scared of the man they're with. Later on, they have a bit of conversation. The man's ideology is that in a world of war, it's survival of the fittest. People who have guns are people willing to shoot you for the sake of themselves. Those people will go and kill many others with these weapons. However, if a man takes out said people, then the people who would have died to the person are now saved. It's all about minimizing casualties. It ends with the girl crying, sad, at the reality of war, and with the boy asking the man how to use a gun. They go on doing what they've been doing, with the girl now helping out with cooking instead of informing the man of the people passing by. Neither the boy or girl felt too good about the current situation. They discuss with the man and decide that they're going to leave. They don't know where to, but they need to move forward. Soon, we see the man try and teach the boy how to shoot. Catch is, the target is a person. The man was lecturing the boy. It was people like him who made the world what it is. The boy's resolution was solidified when he asked how to use a gun. Despite this, he only shoots his leg. He can't kill him. They're only human after all, and so is he. He wasn't going to kill the guy based solely on animosity, but the man warns him that when he's faced down a gun, hesitation will get him killed. Unexpectedly, it's revealed that the boy passed the test that the man didn't tell the boy about, and the test that would have decided whether or not the man kills the kid. The girl, looking for more ingredients, stumbles upon a warehouse full of corpses. Here, the girl finds someone who's still alive. The man says he won't kill anymore, but at this point, it's a very empty promise. She lets the man go, and later when asked, the girl doesn't deny that she let the man go. To their surprise, this seemed to be another test conducted by the man. The girl was also someone he didn't have to end up killing. The two finally start their journey, walking forward again, but they don't get very far before they're met with a squadron of vehicles. The people in the cars ask whether or not they should kill the kids, and the man who the girl saved says to let them be. The man in the suit, now on top of a building, reflects on his life one last time, before taking the lives of the people in the cars, seemingly along with himself, using explosives he's planted throughout the city. The boy and girl see the resulting smoke, but can't do anything about it anymore. That's all in the past. For now, they need to move forward. Darkness still envelops the boy's dreams, but now it seems the girl is there to comfort him. The two seem to be doing good, eating food, looking at a tortoise walk by, and generally messing around. The two are content with the way things are going. Unfortunately, after that rainy night, The boy ends up sick. The girl tries her best to keep him healthy, but when she sees his condition worsen, she's reminded of her life before meeting the boy. The girl and her father are on a bus. The life they now live is rough, but the two are making it through. There's an old dude whose health doesn't seem to be doing the best, but other than that, the group seems fine. They aren't exactly living a very fruitful life, but it is one where they do see to the end of today, and they still have enough morale to celebrate their wins. Sometime later, we see the old man again, seemingly doing worse than before. Upon further inspection, the old man has a disease, one that they can't cure in their current situation. He'll only end up killing the rest of the gang if he stays, and so he leaves the bus, fated to die alone and afraid. The disease is infectious, and so some of the other members have probably already contracted it. They can only hope to keep being able to move forward. Someone else steps up. The life he's lived, the family he had, his habits and hobbies, his pet dog, the days where his life was nothing but bliss. Is all of that gone now? He's succumbed to despair, and he doesn't have the will to go on, and so he leaves the group. Not too long later, someone else in the group is starting to have similar thoughts to the man who just left. They will move forward, but nothing will change. Things will stay the same way it is. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. There is no way out, but death. The family in the group starts to show signs of the disease, and the driver stops. He needs them off, but the husband threatens him with a knife. Overcome by the reality that his family is going to die, he's ready to kill the man driving. That's when his wife steps in. Overcome by emotion, the man finally seems to realize what he needs to do. The couple entrusts their child to the girl and leaves the bus. Dark thoughts creep into the girl's father's head. Is there any point in struggling? Your efforts and existence will all go on to be forgotten. But no, they need to keep moving forward. They need to live every moment to its fullest, as death is never far. Not too long later, the time has finally come where the father and daughter need to separate. There is nothing they can do about it. It's for the better. If there's anyone with a fighting chance, they must all make sure that that person makes it to tomorrow, even if it means a tearful goodbye. The father promises to meet the girl again after making a full recovery, a promise that we know he won't be able to fulfill. The girl and her father both continue to try their best to live on. In the father's last moments, he asks himself whether his daughter is alive, and whether or not he himself is. He hasn't shed a single tear in days, and his body is deteriorating. He won't be able to keep his promise, and he knew that, so why did he even make that promise? An eternal goodbye. How can anyone accept that? No one can accept it wholeheartedly. I don't want to accept it. I absolutely do not accept it. But why? Why? Yes, in that final moment, we must believe. Believe in a better future. The girl and the man make their way forward. The baby, also now succumbing to the disease. Not long after, the man is shot. He tries to comfort her, but it's the end of the road for him. And with that, the girl is now all alone. All she could do was cry. She cried and cried and cried again. She cried out of pity for herself and mankind. Then a few days later, the girl met a boy. Back to the present, the boy seems to be doing better now. They again trek forward. The two see a flower field, and the two are happy for a minute. They were together, and that's all they needed. Talking about their future, they encounter another crazy old man. They run, moving forward, until they encountered an end to the road. Despite this, they move forward, through the woods, and onto the unknown. Soon, they encounter another boy and girl. As they're trained, they raise their guns. Both girls manage to calm them down, and they look at each other for a moment, unsure of how to proceed. One thought runs through their minds. Maybe it's not too late to give up hope. We see a big explosion, and in a panic, the two boys shoot. The foreign boy is dead, and so is the girl we've been with. The boy stood there, looking upon the girl's dead body, at his own hand. He hears a click and looks over. The hope they had all felt just a second ago was now completely gone. She goes ahead and ends it for herself. Seeing this, the boy looks at his own gun, but he doesn't shoot. He looks again at the dead girl. He stays there, looking at his dead friend, but he needs to get up and move forward. Nothing will happen if he stands still. He needs to move forward, empty. He moves and eventually finds the ocean. Water. Nothing but water. Now, there really is no way forward. This is the end of the road. The real, undeniable end of the road. And here, for the first time, we see the boy shed a tear. All that he's lost, his mother, his friend, and now that he's staring down the ocean, even his conviction to move forward is gone. Nothing is left for him to do but cry. Cry because now, it's truly hopeless. Everything this boy had lived and fought for was now for naught. There is an end to the road, and he had sacrificed everything he held dear to get there. Void of any feeling, he walks, until he can't bring himself to do so anymore. He's saved by a platoon, and ends up living, but without as much as a care for anything. It's all meaningless. We see the boy, grown old, living on what seems to be that same beach, eyes filled with that same sense of void. Day in and day out, I'm simply dying, alone. Still, nothing but the inevitability of death and the meaningless nature of the perseverance of human life fills the man's head. During one of his hunts, he comes across a tent, a little living space. Then, a couple returns, and after seeing them, the man leaves. The couple eventually comes back, offering fruit. He takes it and wanders back to his house, thinking about how dark the world is. When I come to, sometimes I wonder if I'm drifting alone in the middle of the ocean. It's cold, and when I flail my legs in fear of sinking, I truly realize the world is innately structured to deny my existence. The realization generates so much sorrow and fear that all I can do is look up at the sky in despair. But all that's up there is a dark, vast void. Waking up, the man finds more fruit at his doorstep, so he returns the basket, filled with fish. The two continue to interact with the man, despite the language barrier, and they all seem to be doing fine, even getting a smile out of the old man every now and then. The war is seemingly still going on, as they find the man on the brink of death. The woman tries to comfort him in his last moments, and the old man is reminded of the world they live in. Does our lives truly have any meaning? The waves crash. The people scream. The people scream. The man wishes to believe in the love that each of these people have, whether given or shared. But you already know, in the end, this is the true nature of humans. This glob made of protein and fat. This is the human soul, the ego, and the human existence. Just like a computer that's been powered down, the protein and fat lose their function, marking the end of a human life. Afterwards, when there are no more memories of that person, the human will finally become nothing. On the other hand, we see the opposite view of life coming from the couple. They're now expecting a child, and with it came a sense of warmth they haven't felt before, an entirely overwhelming kind of love. Before another word is uttered, a giant wave swallows up the man. The old man runs to the scene, only to find the crying wife. A reality that can't be helped. Cry, cry, and cry again. That's all we can possibly do. But what about you? Can you accept this kind of ending? Can you accept these tears? No, never. You would never accept this. Then run. Right this instant. Run. We see the old man run after the husband, eventually finding him in the sea of darkness, seeing himself being swallowed up by the sea. But when he looks up to return to the surface, he finds himself questioning where he's even going. There is nowhere to run to. Is there any point in returning? What significance is left in their puny lives? All there's left to do is to believe in your love. Over the horizon, the sun rises. We come back sometime later, the kid of the couple now born, walking along the beach with the old man. They find a beached whale, and knowing that it's going to die soon, the old man says to the kid, "Give it a nice hug for making it so far and living a good life, and tell her we'll meet again." Clearly, with a new outlook on life. Fooling around with the kid, we see the boy all grown up. It was definitely not an easy journey, but the boy came to know an all-encompassing warmth. We see the family send off the old man on his journey, on his way towards the horizon. We see the boy again, floating in the middle of the sea, with a glimmer in his once empty eyes. He reaches for the sky, where her hand grabs his own. May the story of you and I continue forever. And with that, we come to the end of The Horizon. The Horizon does an amazing job at teaching you the horrors of war and how a young boy fares in such an environment, and how this shapes his view regarding mankind. How a small chance encounter with a family helps the boy see what it means to be human. The life he's lived was filled with such despair that he couldn't realize what it meant to be happy. Yeah, he was happy when he was with the girl, but she ends up dead, thus leading him to believe that there was no joy in being human. Any and all things good are meant to come to an end, spelling a very grim following life. The couple's joy helps him realize that beyond the dark and gloomy night, there is always daybreak. Looking over the horizon, no matter who or where you are, there will always be a sun to rise from it, symbolizing that there will always be a tomorrow. So believe in that tomorrow. Your days will get better, and a bright future awaits us all. Takopi's Original Sin and The Horizon both teach us that there is a tomorrow worth living for. No matter how terrible your situation may be, there is never a moment where you should give up hope. It's hard to put into words how impactful these two stories have been, as it's all emotion. Your resonation with these characters is what makes you feel for them, feeling with them. With this video, I had hoped to do less explaining and more showing, as that's the nature of these two works. Real big props for that. In this day and age, works that take you through an emotional roller coaster are few and far between. Honestly, these recent anime have been kinda lackluster in that department. A lot of cool animated scenes, but you never really feel that amazing storytelling. Attack on Titan was probably the last time I felt that way, and this applies to manga too. But that's that, and this is this. I hope you found these as deep and swag as much as I did, and with that said, I'll see you ugly fat fucks later.